Are you hosting now?
Yeah, I think I'm hosting now.
Okay.
Okay.
Been good.
So we're recording. We're not having any crazy feedback monsters.
Nothing so far, I guess.
I mean, you tell me, man. We don't.
Why? I didn't do anything. Like, it just started doing it.
That's what she said.
Huh.
Okay. Doesn't seem to be having any problems, right? We're good.
Yeah, we'll see. All I'm gonna say.
That sounded like shit.
That'll work.
That's good.
All right.
It's more important that our sound effects are on point than it is we have good discussion.
That's a fact. That's a scientific.
Everybody knows that. It is known. It is known.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I guess we're going to get started then.
Okay.
Welcome back to Southern Tomfoolery. My name is Lycan. I'm here with my co-host, and we're going to do another recap of the third episode of Season 6 of Game of Thrones. What's going on, guys?
Hey now. Woo, woo.
What's happening?
What's going on, man?
For those of y'all that don't know, that are listening for the first time, we're recapping Season 6 as it goes. We did Season 4. We skipped Season 5, but that's all in the past now. So I'm going to turn it over to Higgins, and he's going to give us a brief recap.
Okay, so this one is in some ways sort of a stretch, but here we go. Season 6, Episode 3, Oathbreaker. Basically, in some ways, you could say that Jon is broken free from his oath to the Night's Watch, because your watch lasts until your death, and Jon most certainly died. And so now his watch has ended. You also have, Daenerys broke her oath to return to the Dosh Khaleen after, Drogo's death. So she is technically an Oathbreaker as well. We have the Umbers, who are breaking an oath to the Starks as their loyal bannermen. We'll see. That remains to be determined. But anyway, we do have Arya, who has in some ways broken the oath that she made to herself to get revenge by becoming no one. I mean, like I said, it's a stretch, but here we are.
No, I'm with it.
You could also say that the Lannisters are a broken family in a way, because of the schism between Kevin and Cersei/Jaime. So we have that. I really think that hits the high points. So let's go ahead and move on.
Right. Well, let's start with Jon, right where we left last episode. So he's back, kind of got through the initial, excitement of he's back now. We kind of got to deal with what that means.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting. I like that, you basically have Davos saying, you were dead, now you're not, and that's fucking mad.
I think this whole intro scene can be described in terms of facial expressions, and that Davos and Melisandre both just had those huge, cartoon wolf eyes as soon as they saw him. And you didn't even have to have any dialogue, and that really, oh my God, it worked.
Whenever he leaned up and then probed his chest for all his wounds, all I could think was dude, let's sew that up. Get someone in here quick.
You got Neosporin?
We need some.
Just put some tussin on it.
Yeah. That's all you need.
But yeah, I mean, there was a really good bit of acting from everybody involved there. I want to say particular shout out to Kit, who I've been kind of critical of in the past, although he's been great the last few seasons. And but this was, kind of would be, imagine, a tough scene to do. Put yourself in a perspective of how do you deal with the fact that you died and that you were murdered. you know,
Yeah.
and nothing on the other side of death. I would imagine that would be a lot to bear.
Yeah, if you didn't add the there not being anything on the other side, I was going to, because that as much as the other aspects would be just soul shattering. Like, that's why last week I was really interested to see, like, what John do we get back? You know?
Well, we certainly got John back. You know, I think it was really interesting how there was a throwback in that scene to, what was it, season 2 or season 3 with Barrick, when Melisandre asked Barrick, what was it like when you were gone? And he said, you know, I haven't been to the other side, but I've been to the darkness, or something like that. So you've got two characters confirming there is no afterlife. You know, I mean, I thought that's kind of interesting that they both had the same reaction to Melisandre asking them the exact same question.
Well, in a world so populated by religions and gods that, even if they're not actually gods, that's some kind of power source, like the Lord of Light himself.
Right.
Like, what is he now? Is he a god, or is this just some weird, indescribable, untapped until recently magic source that?
You know, speaking of Melisandre, whenever she walked in the room and got down on her knees to hold his hands or whatever and started talking to him, I loved how we got a Prince That Was Promised drop, and she started saying that someone needed to be that, started up that old religious mumbo jumbo, and Davos stepped in and was like, "Hey, can you give us a minute? You know, we need to talk before you start getting into someone else's head with that stuff."
She refound her faith so fast.
Instantly.
Yeah.
As
Quick.
soon as he was back, it's like, "Yep, there's a god."
You know, I want to go back to the callback that you brought up, because it again is kind of ties in with this theme that we've seen all season, with throwing back to other scenes and kind of reacting the scenes, but with different perspectives, and how it, you know, as you said, we saw it before and we kind of just took it as, okay, well, here's this character that's kind of what he's defined by, is that he's the guy that's been brought back. Well, now we're seeing it on a character that we care about, and as you said, it's the same question, but the answer has so much more meaning because of how far along we are in the season or in the series.
Sure. I mean, but hey, for what it's worth, I cared about Barrick. I like Barrick Dondarrion.
Yeah.
I think he's a good character.
No, I do too. I'm not, but you know, he's not Jon Snow, and Jon
Sure.
Snow obviously has a lot more characterization than just a champion of the people that is kind of mythological because he can't die, you know, which is basically the note that Barrick was. Which, I mean, he was great. He was a great side character, but he was just that. You know, we haven't seen him in forever. Well, hopefully, I'm still holding out season of hope that we see him this season.
Well, we won't see him because he has now transferred his essence into Lady Stoneheart. So we can hold out for Lady Stoneheart's # season of hope. We might get it.
Well, so John,
I mean, you know, I wanted to talk about how the irony of a land filled with different religions and there is no afterlife. I mean, that's just it's funny to me that with all of these different factions working in, you know, at odds or in tandem, all of these different religions, and there's nothing. I mean, we have it confirmed now. It's just.
Yep, atheists went out on that one.
Checkmate, Christians.
Or whoever's.
Yeah.
I mean, it is interesting. What's wild about it, though, is that we have seen some form of magic or something greater, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, that has happened in the real world. Yet here we are with evidence that it may all be for naught as far as an afterlife is concerned, for sure.
Well, that's the thing, is we've gotten confirmation of the supernatural or something like it, but not in strictly religious terms now. You know, like, there are other things than gods that could provide this power, and that's like what I'm questioning based on this whole revelation. It's like, where does all of this come from if it's not from gods in the series?
Yeah, we definitely have supernatural forces at work, but they're not providing the eternal comfort that one would hope for after death.
There's no comfort in Westeros.
Well, yeah, I mean, have any of the religions of Westeros really preached like a heaven?
No, well, yes, the seven does. Seven heavens, seven hells, right?
Right. Yeah, okay. So the seven would be your more kind of traditional, organized religion that, yeah.
But you do have Melisandre throughout the series that whenever she sacrifices someone, whenever she burns someone, she, in her mind, will say something like, oh, he's in a better place, or something like that. I mean, I believe it might have been just in the book that she said that, but
no, I think she said some things like that. It is interesting, and for Jon to have to decide like what's his purpose now? Like, how do you do that knowing that if you die again, there's nothing? So why were you even brought back? Like, just kind of this existentialism or existential crisis that he's got to be going through right now is insane.
Well, I actually saw an article someone did about an interview with Kit where he talked about that Jon's character now, even though it wasn't explicitly said in the episode, Kit said that Jon's character doesn't want to die and come back again. If he dies, so be it, but he does not want to come back.
Yeah, I mean, one time coming back is probably enough,
Yeah, but I do think that now we have, I mean, what am I trying to say? Jon he doesn't want to die again, though, like, now that he knows what's out there, I would think that he would be trying to ensure that he stayed alive rather than rushing headlong into his death again.
Well, I don't know. That's something that, we have to wait to see in the future. Like, how is he going to respond to that as far as how do I interact with danger? Am I going to rush headlong into things because I've already died once and fuck it? Or am I going to be super cautious and try to avoid death at all costs because I've already done it?
I think it's going to definitely cause some inner turmoil throughout the season as he kind of struggles to figure out what his actual destiny is. I mean, that seems to be what the season is kind of having him confront the dark side, so to speak,
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how it plays out.
And I don't necessarily mean that I think he's going to be tempted to like join the others or anything like that, but this is his time where he's broken all the way down. I mean, he was dead and he's having to rebuild his identity and where he stands in Westeros. And for some reason, he's important enough to have been given a second shot,
Yeah, I mean, this is the turning point in Jon Snow's entire life. I mean, we're going to get era 2 Jon, and what comes out of that is going to be completely dictated by his responses to dying of not only death, but a betrayal, and then fear or lack of fear of that death again.
Well, and a failure, and a failure of decisions that resulted in him getting murdered, like that's something else that he has to deal with too, is that he thought he was doing right and it resulted in death all around him, including his own.
Well, that's like when I was watching the episode and he talked about, I failed myself, failed everybody, being emo Jon as he does. Like, my immediate response, I shouted out at the TV. I was like, you didn't fail at anything. You got betrayed. You got murdered. Like, that's not a failure. You can't foresee that. Like,
yeah, but I mean, he didn't succeed in what he was trying to do. Like, it's not his fault, so to speak, but he didn't succeed either way. Like, he needed everybody alive defending the wall. Wildings, Night's Watch. And what happened is a lot of more people died.
Yeah.
And they're that less off or less well defended,
I'm just really sad that we don't have Ollie defending the wall anymore. Best archer in his Hamlet.
Best archer in his Hamlet, man. Crack shot, Ollie.
Speaking of Ollie, I think it's funny. Like, there's such an outcry from all the show watcher fans that's so negative against Ollie. I mean, there's Hitler memes and everything about Ollie. But like, the show is trying to portray it as like this was a thing that really tore Jon up. This is a thing that they had some interaction even on Ollie's side that he felt bad about, and that's the point. But not to the show watcher. To the show watcher, it's just fuck Ollie.
Yeah, well, to us, Ollie is literally Hitler, but Jon considered Ollie like sort of an apprentice. You know, he was a mentor to Ollie in a way. And so it really hurts John to have to know that he was betrayed by Ollie and then to also have to swing the sword that carries out Ollie's sentence.
Yeah.
That was a tough emotional moment, was when John looks up at Ollie and Ollie's just mean mugging him, you know, stone faced, and has nothing to say for himself. Even Alistair had something to say for himself.
Yeah, and speaking of Alistair, man, he went out like a champ. Like as much as hated as Alistair Thorne is, and I get it, but he went out believing in what he'd done and understanding why John was doing what he was doing. Like he was a soldier, for better or worse.
Well, I've liked that about Alistair this entire season, is that he's been very upfront about, like, I have a serious philosophical disagreement here. I'm not going to back down from it, and if it gets me killed, so be it. But I'm sticking with it. You know, there's a courage and a sense of spine to Alistair Thorne that you've at least got to respect that, if nothing else.
Oh yeah, I have massive respect for Alistair for the way he handled himself in the face of his own death. You know, he wasn't like squalling and crying and begging for mercy or anything. He was like, if I do it over again, I'd do it over again, because that's how I feel, you know. You have to respect him for that.
Well, they were doing what they thought was right.
Yeah.
Even if it was shitty.
Yeah. Well, we didn't see it that way.
Yeah.
To respect it. But to them, they were doing, you know, what they had to do.
Yeah. Well, when you got a faction such as the Night's Watch that's been wholly devoted for the last several hundred years to stopping the Woblins, well, you could argue they were initially designed to protect the realms of men from the others.
I saw a pretty apt comparison reading today of Thorne to Colonel Jessup from A Few Good Men. You know, that in his mind, he was, you know, the rest of Westeros needed a man like him on the wall to keep them safe so they could live their life of luxury. You know, like we can't handle the truth of what it means to be a man of the Night's Watch, you know, kind of situation. I thought that was a good comparison.
Okay. I wouldn't have thought of that, but that's
I can dig it.
Stuff. I like it.
So yeah, John, he does carry out the sentence. He kills the betrayers, and then that's it. That's it for him as Lord Commander.
He hands the cloak to Ed,
which is awesome in its own right. Like, I don't want that to get lost. So pumped that Ed is the new commander. But yes, so now you know, it was more about John giving up the mantle, I guess.
Also, want to say one thing. I mean, how perfect was Tormund's line? I mean, there was nothing more Tormund that could possibly have been said than a dick joke.
Yeah,
I thought that was great.
I agree. I wonder if non-book readers would feel like if that came out of left field. You know what I mean? Because they haven't really characterized him so much like that, you know. But I loved it as a book reader, Tormund being Tormund for real this time, you know.
Mm-hmm. I thought about that too. Like, I loved it, and I knew it was fan service for the book readers to throw that in there. And just like his nature of trying to like break the ice a little bit because he didn't want to deal with the emotion of the whole thing. But, you know, I thought the same thing. Maybe if you only watched the show and didn't know any of the context from the book, you'd be like, wow, that's a really inappropriate time for a dick joke.
Yeah, exactly.
The most appropriate time for Tormund.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, all the wall stuff, man, has been really good this episode. I really enjoyed it. It helped me kind of get over some of my frustrations with last week's wall stuff. And, you know, to be honest, I really like Davos and John working together. I think that's a great pairing. So it's good to see that kind of out of the context of me being angry about it.
Yeah, fair enough.
But let's get on to what I know all of y'all want to talk about. Tower of Joy.
Yeah, buddy.
We got it. We definitely got it.
We got part one.
Yeah.
We got part one.
It's actually probably like part 1 of 3.
No, dude.
Part
I
1
think
of 4.
as fast as we're moving this season, it could be a next week thing. We're going to get the reveal. Whatever. Season of Hope. Season of Hope. We're getting all the good stuff.
Season of Hope, sure, but it was honestly like the biggest cock block to watch Ned walking up those stairs, and then Three-Eyed Raven's like, "Nah, man, let's do Sal."
You heard that scream, and then it cut away, and just.
Let's think about it though, where it should. Like, if we were to reveal that in this part of the story, for us who've been poring over it and studying, waiting for it, we're ready for it to be confirmed. But like, I don't think it has near the amount of impact that it'll have when it means something to John and when it means something to Bran to put that together. Like, Bran doesn't know enough to contextually understand how important that is, and John hasn't had enough progression on the screen to become that prince that was promised. I think it's much better to delay that to a time when it all gels together and has the most impact. I thought it was. I said it last week, and as soon as it started, I was like, I knew we weren't going to get the reveal yet, because it was about the fight first. It was what we knew. They wanted to just show viewers the little tidbit that we've had this whole time to work with. It's you know what I mean?
Well, that's like Higgins saying that he felt like it was a cock block. Like, I didn't at all. I mean, yes, you want to see that reveal as a book reader, but at the same time, like, you're taking away from the gravity of that fight. Like, that was a pretty awesome fight in the history of Game of Thrones, and to just gloss over it because you didn't get a reveal you want as a book reader, it's doing the scene an injustice, because we got Fury Spec, Arthur Dane, going up against 4 men. Tell me that's not badass.
Yeah, it was awesome. I love the throwback Kingsguard armor.
Yep.
The silver with the Targaryen crest on it.
Should be silver or white.
Yeah. Yeah, actually how it's supposed to be. That's the irony. Is like, that's how the Kingsguard armor is actually supposed to be.
Yeah.
In the context, of the novels. But that was great. Arthur Dane, such a badass. And what's great is that as book readers, we've heard about Sir Arthur Dane and heard about how much of a badass he was. And so finally getting that on screen is just fantastic. It's just such a payoff.
It's huge. That to me is increasing my hype level, just having seen that. Not conspiracy theory hype, but just seeing something that's so satisfying that we've been waiting on for so long.
And the fight choreography was amazing. I mean,
it was like a 2.5 minute fight.
They actually all attacked at once.
Yeah.
Because that's how it actually happened.
Yeah. There wasn't no one at a time. Oh, I'm going to fight you. You just wait behind me, all right? Dude, wait till I die, and then you go.
Well, it's a testament to how good, Arthur Dane is. Like, he took down 4 people on his own, all attacking him at the same time. Yeah.
No problem. I mean, he really handled it with a lot of grace and poise as well, As far as the backstab goes, though.
Yeah,
that takes a little bit away from our perception of old Ned Stark as the supremely honorable individual that we think of him as. Like, he kind of succeeded early in his life and got his reputation from a really dishonorable move.
Yeah, that was what I wanted to get at.
But is it dishonorable? Where they're fighting to the death, you know what I mean? Like, what was Reed supposed to let Arthur Dane kill Ned because of some sense of honor?
I appreciate the practicality of it, but in a society that values honor as much as this one does, it's a big deal. It might not be a big deal to me or you, but to the world of Westeros, it is. That knowledge would be huge.
Well, I'm not mad about it at all. But I'm just glad Ned survived. But even as a book reader, the whole time I still thought that Ned had killed Arthur Dane in single combat, and then Howland maybe killed someone else about to kill Ned. That's how he saved his life, because we always knew that he saved his life. But
I mean, that's the thing for me. I always kind of thought that it would have had to have been something like that. I mean, as much as they talk about how good Arthur Dane was, the dude just took out 4 people on his own. There's no way that Ned was capable of doing it, taking them on his own. And I get it. I think it was more to show Bran the realities of how fights go. Honor was a big part of Westeros. I'm not denying that. But also the exaggerations and the romanticizing of stories to the point to where they become mythology is also something that happens in Westeros. It is a big theme throughout the books of people operating based on mythology rather than how things really are. And when people first see how things really are, it's kind of too late to learn the hard way, you know? And I don't think it was dishonorable for Ned to do what he did. I think it's realistic on how fights go, regardless of how the songs sing about them. That's what the Hound is trying to preach all the time, you know? Like, all the songs are lies. It's when it gets down to it, killing is killing and brutal is brutal.
Well, I completely agree with you, but I still think it's important to stress how that's perceived by Bran and via Bran by the entirety of Westeros. You know, I'm not saying so much that Ned himself was super dishonorable, but that Howland was. He stabbed a man in the back. That's
Howland was just saving his best friend's life is all he was doing.
Man, like what? Where's the dishonor in that? I think it would be more dishonorable to sit there and watch your lord and friend get killed when you can do something to stop it. Doesn't. I mean, would it have been more honorable if he tapped him on the shoulder and stabbed him in the face?
Well, no, but I'm just saying it highlights the problem in the code of honor in all of Westeros. Like, it's the Jaime Lannister speech. There's no way to keep all your vows, do everything honorably, and still serve your duty. You know,
I think Bran was most upset that his father wasn't the badass that the stories all said. I mean, he was still a badass, but he didn't kill Arthur Dayne in single combat. I think that's what Bran was disappointed about.
I think there's a difference in the dishonor of breaking a vow for whatever reason than doing what you need to survive a combat to the death. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that the honor is in question as much here as it is the realization that stories are exaggerated and romanticized.
Yeah, I think that's the takeaway at the end of the day. That's the takeaway that we get, is that regardless of what the songs sing, this is the reality, and the reality is much more brutal and much less fantasized than the myth.
I'm gonna stand by my opinion here, but I think we're arguing about something we agree on. So let's move on.
All right. So before we move on to the next section, let's just talk a little bit about Brandon and the Three-Eyed Raven and their relationship outside of the flashbacks, because there is like little bits of progression going there. Again, we get the insistence that Bran is not going to stay there and become the next Three-Eyed Raven in the tree. But I'm getting a little frustrated just because I guess I'm getting impatient. Like, the Three-Eyed Raven keeps telling him everything that he's not supposed to do, but he won't kind of just give him some sort of like, all right, this is what we're actually trying to do.
Well, it's a typical master student setup, like in the grand old scheme of things. Like, he's intentionally frustrating the kid, trying to get him pissed off and not revealing information that he could. Like, that's always been a part of rigorous training by super knowledgeable mentors.
I guess I've just had so much of it with Arya that I'm not looking forward to more dragged out Padawan training, But we're getting such good flashbacks, it's kind of silly to complain. But there is this dynamic between them that I would like to see explored a little bit more than just getting info dumps from the past, as much fun as those are.
Well, I don't know. This is one of the many things that's going to come down to how much time do we have.
Right.
I mean, they could put more time into that relationship if they didn't have so much more material to get done by the time their contract closed.
Which segues right into our next thing. I mean, they have to leave time for Tyrion to have the most awkward conversation ever.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. That really needed to drag on so much more.
What was the point of that scene?
I don't know. It was painful to watch. Like, I was hoping that one of y'all liked it, so we could figure out why it was there, and
Hell no. Look. We could have had so much more development between Bran and the Three-Eyed Raven. We could have finished the Tower of Joy, for that matter, in the time that it took up for Tyrion to stare awkwardly at Grey Worm and Missandei.
Well, I don't feel like the concept for the scene was all that bad, but they could have done it in a quarter of the time. Like, oh, here's a little snippet of him being awkward because they don't know how to relate to him. Boom, you get the point. They don't relate to each other. There's still a divide in that city. And that's all you need is a little 10-second snippet. But how long was that scene? We sat there for a couple of minutes just dragging on like, well, let's play games. Well, let me find a way to make you drink. Okay, you don't drink? I don't know what to say, but I'm going to keep talking.
Yeah, and all that set up kind of a deflated reveal with the Harpies. Like, no, I mean, duh, or what does it even matter? Like, that doesn't, I don't know, just the whole Marine stuff. Now, I did like Varys being Varys with boy, that was good to see he still got his game. But other than that, I thought Marine was just kind of like lackluster.
Well, as far as Varys is concerned, talking about specifically the awkward, unnecessary Tyrion scene, to me it seemed like the only purpose in doing that whole thing was for Varys to walk in and him, Tyrion, to basically say, oh, I missed you so much because we're bros now and we can talk. You know, like he was like so relieved when Varys got there, and that seemed to be the only point. And it's like, well, of course they are more comfortable talking to each other. That's not something we really need to explore.
And there was the little reveal that the slavers of Astapor and Yunkai and Volantis are funding the Sons of the Harpy. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's
Who
not
would
even
have
a
thought?
big reveal. All the slavers that you just deposed, like, are
Trying
mad
to
at
get
you
back
and got
at
their
you.
cities back because you didn't have the means to defend it.
Right.
Big surprise.
It's
I
exactly.
don't know. I think, you know, people like Tyrion, so he's got to be in every episode, I guess.
I guess, man, that's the only thing I can think of why they would put us through that grueling scene, man. Because it wasn't we got a whole lot of development from it. We didn't learn a whole lot of anything that we didn't already, expect. And it was bad. I just thought it was bad. It was not quite Dorne bad, but it was bad.
It was just like grating, you know?
It was the fat that needed to be trimmed in that episode.
Yeah, I just thought they could have spent something else with that time, done something else with that time. I don't know. Added to some scene. I don't care.
Let's do something else with our time and get into King's Landing.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
So King's Landing, some things went down. I got to say before we get into specifics, King's Landing was one of the storylines I was most looking forward to. And I've been kind of, I won't say disappointed because there's nothing really been anything wrong with it. But it seems like they're setting that up to be more of a late season payoff than really pushing anything forward right now. The North seems to be the focus right now, and King's Landing is kind of in a holding pattern. Would y'all
Well, they're setting up for something down the road that we'll talk about later.
Clegane Bolgan hype.
Thanks, Dick. But no, the thing that irritated me most about King's Landing in general was how kind of blunt and not subtle the Varys' little bird scene was. Like, okay, Qyburn now gets all of Varys' little birds, and he's just super open about it. Like, let's have a spy meeting, guys. Come on.
Well, I think that those little birds are still loyal to Varys, personally.
Well, and I mean, they portray them as just loyal to Candy, which is pretty shitty. I mean, even though they're children, they're not that young of children.
Well, at the very beginning, he asked that little boy how his mother's jaw was, and he said it was fine.
Yeah, I mean,
he
he's
said, your
nice
father. He said, your father, and she said he hasn't shown up and nobody's seen him, and he said, and they won't.
Yeah.
The little boy smiled at her. It's like, oh, dang, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing his part to win himself over in the eyes of these kids, certainly. But it just seemed like just a really lazy way to do that scene. Just like, here's Qyburn and here's a bunch of kids, and like the scene, the queen, or not queen, Cersei and the Mountain walk in at the same time, and it's just like, oh, hey, what's up? I got you some kid spies.
Yeah.
Like, it just wasn't. There was no tension there. It just didn't feel very rewarding. It's like, oh, okay. I guess that makes sense.
They're not even trying to hide Sir Gregor's identity anymore. So it's like, oh, we know all of y'all watched this man die, but here he is. He's back. Sir Gregor Clegane. Hey.
I think that's just for expediency for show watchers, I guess. I thought the same thing. Like, okay, I guess he's not Robert Strong, but that's, whatever. They're just going for
There might have been that one guy that still was watching the show and didn't put two and two together,
And good for him, Not good for him because he's dumb, but good for him just for the joy of getting that so much later than
he finally figured it out.
He got a good reveal. He's like, oh my God, mountain.
I think though it does, and we'll kind of do this a little out of order, but I think it does kind of set up our tinfoil of the week, and maybe that's why they're calling him Sir Gregor, so we can identify who that is. You know what I mean?
Well, no, I think we need to wait till we get to Arya's scene, because that ties in the second part to it.
That's true, but we can here. Let's start second into the tinfoil though by mentioning this, and that is that Cersei, Qyburn, Jaime, they're talking, and Cersei says that they're only going to have to fight one champion from the Faith Militant. Like, they're going to have a trial by combat. There's going to be charges formally brought against them, and Cersei's champion is obviously going to be Zombie Mountain.
Yes.
Without a doubt. And so, that's an important, piece of information when you're talking about the tinfoil that's coming up later.
When Jaime even says, that's a trial by combat I'd like to see.
Yeah.
You and me both, my friend.
All right.
Ready.
Let's talk about the small council meeting.
Yes, sure. How about that fart?
That was the most important part of the scene.
I think so, yeah.
No, I think that whole scene served in the most simplistic terms to continue to show you that Lannisters, despite all the gains they've ever had, they are purely offensive and have no defensive skill whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's like, let's show our fucking hand, and then if we lose, we lose. Because they just got walked out
Well,
on.
it's more of a Jaime and Cersei thing,
Well, those are the Lannisters now. Tyrion's
Kevin.
exiled. Yeah.
Their uncle, he's a Lannister.
The Kevin's conspiring with, the Tyrells.
Oh, Lena, she's back.
Okay, excuse me.
But I actually sided with Jaime and Cersei on this one because they were at least wanting to talk about the Seven Kingdoms and the state that it's in. Well, what was Kevin doing? Like, he's certainly not his brother, because he was letting Pycelle prattle on about stuff that didn't matter. Like, they have an uprising in Dorne. They have an unstable north. They don't know what the hell is going on in the Iron Islands. Like, they're not talking about any of this stuff. They're still talking about stupid shit. And Jaime and Cersei, well, while they were maybe a little blunt with their approach, came in there saying, hey, we got to work together because we got a lot of shit to talk about because it's all in flames right now. And Kevin just ran away just like he did last time. Like, I lost some respect for Kevin in that scene, personally.
I never had a ton of respect for Kevin to begin with, not out of, like, knowing anything disrespectful about Kevin, but by his almost total lack of being on screen other than as a lackey for his brother. Like, he's never been a leader, and even in the books it talks about, like, he's the best follower ever. It's a horrible leader.
No, man. No.
It talks about him being okay. Excuse, I probably did exaggerate, but just being second fiddle to Tywin as his personality.
I think he is a terrible leader. That's my point. I think
even in the books, Varys says is the one man who could fix the Seven Kingdoms from all of Cersei's mistake was Kevin. I mean, that's straight from the books, man.
Yeah, but we can't trust
Varys. Contextual thing.
Can't trust Varys. Like, we can't talk about this too much, but I don't think that that's a valid reference, considering.
Now, I think Show Kevin and Book Kevin are just two different animals, Now, Show Kevin, he doesn't really seem to be doing anything.
Well, he never has. No.
Just diddling around.
But anyway, that's the point, is that they're not doing anything. They're sitting around just gossiping while they should be managing the realm.
Right. Which is, I know that Higgins, you particularly are frustrated by the Lannisters' relentless need to just say, fuck everybody that's not us. But that's what makes a strong family survive in the world of Westeros, and that's what Cersei and Jaime were finally trying to get their shit together to do. And yeah, they overstepped. They flew too close to the sun. They maybe could have talked it a little bit better and got better results, but that's who they are, and they're trying to get this shit back in order.
Yeah, but the problem is their approach, as it always is, with as far as Jaime and Cersei, and particularly Cersei, is that she did it under pretense of threat. Like, how did you think they were going to respond? Not positively. You threatened them. Your opening statement was a threat.
No.
You know?
What other choice did she have, though?
Oh, I mean, like, I'm not faulting her as far as from her own eyes. Like, she did what she thought she had to do, but it still was a mistake. She's been doing what she thought she had to do the entire series, and they've been all mistakes.
Well, that could be said for just about anybody on this damn show.
No more than Cersei.
Well, I think the important thing to take away from this scene is that Jaime and Cersei don't have any friends left on the Small Castle anyway.
They don't. They definitely don't.
Their political power is gone.
Mm-hmm. Sucks to be them.
Well, but it's kind of you can kind of get into a little debate about that. Like, technically, yeah, a lot of their political power is gone, but they still have the power of celebrity. Like, they are literally like the Kardashians of their time. And I'm not discounting that they've lost their political power, but it's something interesting to analyze. Like, because Cersei and Jaime are known by every person in the fucking kingdoms, and despite all the wars that have gone on, still have a lot of supporters. As far as like, this was a rich and super stable house. They were like the Bill Clinton of Westeros, you know. So
let's talk about Tommen and the High Sparrow, because that's way more interesting than this bullshit with Jaime and Cersei in this episode.
Well, basically, Tommen just got straight manipulated by the High Sparrow.
Oh, yeah. He just turned to the side and played him.
Yeah, he played him like a fiddle. He did.
Well, Tommen is just such a sweet boy that he's asking to get played by anybody in his presence.
He's like, someone else said something vaguely familiar like that to me, and it was my grandfather. I really trust him, so I'm just going to listen to you now.
One thing that I thought was interesting was that Tommen never once asked what was going on with his wife.
Yeah,
dude.
What's up with that?
Like, dude, that's your woman right now. That's the queen, He was only concerned with, like, saying his piece about how Cersei was treated.
Yeah.
He was not concerned with the fact that he's still holding his queen.
Yeah.
Well, but for him, that took all the balls in the world, is the thing. Like, Tommen is still a child, and that's much more emphasized in the books because the actor has aged a bit. But he's still a very young character, doesn't have a lot of spine, because he never thought in his life that he would be in the position of being the king at this young.
Yeah, he was pretty far down the short list in terms of who gets the throne,
I mean, second under Joffrey.
First under Joffrey.
Yeah, second.
Second under Robert.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, when the story opens, Robert's king. Robert would have been king for a lot longer yet had he not been assassinated.
Right.
And then Joffrey would have taken over. And then Tommen likely would have never been king because Joffrey would have had children and they would have inherited.
Maybe, or he just would have beat them all to death. I don't know.
Let me ask you guys this. If Tommen dies, who's the rightful heir?
A Targaryen.
That's the thing. That'd have to be like a great
Jon?
council or something.
Well,
I guess Marjorie?
In order for Targaryens to take back the throne, they have to take back the throne. Like, they've been usurped. They're no longer the heir to the throne. You know what I mean? Like, as long as that there's some Baratheon blood out there, Baratheon still has claim to the throne.
But they're not Baratheons. Tommen's not a Baratheon.
Yeah,
There's nothing about a Baratheon.
But
The public, he is.
Sure.
His claim
That's
to the
huge.
throne is being a Baratheon.
Yeah. Well, my answer to that question is whoever takes it. Whoever takes that throne has the right, because that's the true point of this entire fucking story. To some degree, is that the right of lineage is fucking bullshit. If somebody's got more force than you, they'll come take it. It doesn't matter who your daddy was.
Well, That's the reality, yes.
And that's what the church is trying to do right now. You know, we'll have a figurehead, sure, but we're taking political power. So, you know, I mean, the High Sparrow, probably. If they don't find a way to deal with the church problem, the High Sparrow.
If Tommen dies, the power vacuum is going to allow the High Sparrow to take over the capital.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because what can the Lannisters really do? I mean, they can hold themselves up in the Red Keep, I guess.
Well, their ace in the hole, as was mentioned in this episode, is trial by combat. Like, that's all they're banking on. Like, they really don't have a whole lot else other than one dope ass champion.
Here's what Here's what I got to say about it, is that I think Cersei actually has the claim to the throne, and I'm not going to take full credit for this. I came across this in reading on the internet or whatever, but I really like it because it sets up nicely for the kind of in a poetic way. So if going way back, Tywin is a cousin to a Baratheon. So he has Baratheon, so he would actually be next in line for the throne if he were alive, but he's dead. So then Jaime would be, right? But he can't take the throne. Then Tyrion would be, but Tyrion has committed kinslaying, and so he can't.
Patricide is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, thank you. So he can't be it. That leaves Cersei, which, think about this. Cersei only can become the queen that she's always wanted to be after all her children die. Like ashes in her mouth.
Mm. Which is part of the prophecy, yes.
Well, but the other part of the prophecy is you'll be queen for a while until somebody comes and deposes you, someone more beautiful than you. And then Marjorie is in a fucking jail cell. So I don't know how much I trust prophecies in Game of Thrones.
Well, she hasn't really been queen yet. And the queen that will dispose her is probably going to be Daenerys.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, if you want to get right down to brass tacks, you know, the Iron Throne has been ruled by Targaryens for generations upon generations. If you really want to get right down to it, the Targaryens are the rightful rulers.
No.
Yes.
I always argue this.
Baratheon was a usurper.
But they usurped it. So then they became the bloodline that...
Yeah, but that's bullshit. No. You know what I'm saying? Daenerys has the right to the throne.
Here's the deal. When Aegon landed, you know, the very first Targaryen, when he landed in Westeros, there were 7 different kingdoms. So he basically usurped each kingdom, took it from their rightful owners, and made it one kingdom. Old Bobby B came marching down the Trident, popped Rhaegar in the chest with a hammer, and boom, he became king. It's called right of conquest.
Yes.
That's what you do. Yeah.
Well, that conflict is essential to the entire story, like I was talking about. Like, the part of the point of this series is to point out that you can be all up in arms if you want to about who is the rightful heir, but if somebody has the power to take it from you, there's not shit you can do about it. And Dany has been in that situation for the whole series.
But here's the deal. If Daenerys could just escape her, you know, Stepford Wives Club or whatever the fuck it is that she's got going on, get on the back of that dragon and ride to Westeros, she could handle business.
Here's what's going to happen with that. The crones of the Dash Khaleen said that all the calls are about to meet up. Every one of them. And they're going to decide what to do with her. She's going to be on stage or in front of them or whatever, and old Drogon's going to come riding in, char a few horses, kill a few soldiers, boom, Khalasar.
That's exactly what needs to happen. It's also what I think will happen and what I hope will happen. Hashtag Season of Hope.
Season of Hope.
Because I can only take so much more of Dany being like deposed and outside of her kingdom.
Helpless.
Helpless. I really can't handle much more of it.
Well, I was going to say what ties those together is that she would be getting a Khalasar. Like, Dany and Drogon together, while a very formidable thing, is not enough to win you an empire. Just those two alone are not enough to get an empire. You need an army as well. And at some point, she's either going to get an army and go do this damn thing, or she's just going to fade off into obscurity.
So 3,000 unsullied aren't enough.
No, but 3 dragons will do a lot for you, dude. I'm just saying.
Oh, they will.
But you have to hold the kingdom. Like, that's what she's learned this whole thing is she can conquest and, destroy cities and free all the people she wants. But if she leaves them to their own devices, then they fall back apart, and they turn up against her. Yeah, she can go in there and tear through the 7 kingdoms with the 3 dragons, but she needs more than that to hold the kingdom, to keep it in.
I agree. I mean, you're seeing that, in Essos right now with the fact that the other cities have revolted and are funding the Harpy. So, yeah, absolutely. It's one thing to conquer. It's another to hold your conquered kingdom.
Yeah, that's been the theme of this series from the get-go is, claiming power is one thing, but how to run it. I mean, we've seen time after time after time of people claiming a title or claiming a leadership role and then failing once they have to maintain it. It's been every arc has almost ended that way.
But here's the question. Let's say we get the hypothetical Khalasar that we're hoping for. Are the Dothraki going to be the ones to hold the kingdom? No, you have to win over the hearts of the people as well in order to get them to obey you, to fall in line. You know what I mean? You can't just take them by the sword and then expect no repercussions. You do have to become a benevolent ruler in the process.
I really don't know where the Dothraki fit into it. I really don't. That's one thing.
If anything, I think that they will help her get her ass back across the narrow sea.
I think that Dany's going to give them Slaver's Bay. That's going to be their reward. That'd be cool, huh?
That would make the most sense,
Season of Hope. By the way, how did they make those giant horses? Like, dude, who built those?
I don't know.
They just stole them from somebody. They just chained up a shitload of horses to it and drug it.
That's what they usually do.
I'm not joking.
That's the Bravos' Titans horses. Like, I'm the same guy.
Yeah.
He's the brand, the builder of not that part of, not Westeros.
SS.
Yes.
Not that part.
Yeah. Sorry.
The other part.
It's easy to think of the whole world as Westeros.
China.
Is there anything else that y'all want to discuss regarding the Dash Colleen, or was that just kind of like, okay, here's more delay?
No, I'm kind of over it. I mean, if you guys have an interesting point that you want to make, I don't really think that there was that much going on with that. I mean, Dany's there. She's on site now. We're going to have the calls all meet up. Drogon's going to land. What you got?
See, it's not necessarily about the Dash Colleen, but the Dany arc, where it's at right now in general. You guys are talking about she's going to get a Dothraki army and go across the narrow sea. Like, we haven't seen that arc try to happen before. And then you brought up she's going to just take Slaver's Bay. I'm more inclined to think that she's going to take Slaver's Bay, turn it into a FEMA camp for all these people that are running away from the others. And that's, she's just going to hold it down there. She's never going to get that Iron Throne.
Oh, what?
No, dude.
She has to.
Are you?
She's never gonna
I just want to get this out. Are you naysaying my season of hope, sir? Don't naysay my season of hope.
Remus, I think
she does it well.
I think you might be onto something there, though. As much as it pains me to say, it falls in line with her whole deal, man. Like, she can't leave. She wants to save people. Westeros is about to be completely destroyed one way or the other.
Yeah. Everybody's going to regroup in Slaver's Bay. She's making a humongous...
So they're going to let the continent of Westeros fall to the others, and they're all going to retreat to Essos. Where
no, not everybody. Them. Most of them are going to die.
That was pretty good.
Not that it wouldn't be typical of Martin to pull something like that.
Yeah, kill everybody.
But that would be about the least satisfying way you could end this series that I could possibly think of.
I still think the series is going to end on the wall. It's going to be somewhere right up around there.
Yeah. No.
It's going to start where it ends.
I disagree. I think that they're going.
Or inward.
You're gonna have to think like the others in Winterfell or something. I feel in the north is right, but not at the wall.
It's going to start or it's going to end where it started in the north. I'll say that.
The wall's coming down, dude.
The wall's coming down.
We're gonna end in somewhere we've never seen. We're gonna be in the Sunset Isles or Sithorios at the end of this thing, and there's only like 2 people in the world that are left.
Yeah, Saldar Sen is going to be like on his boat laughing at everybody like, you idiots.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing the others in King's Landing just as a juxtaposition.
That's gonna happen. Like that's gonna happen.
I don't know, man. I just don't.
Winter is coming.
I don't know.
For the whole of Westeros.
Well, hey, man, in 2035 when he writes that book, we're gonna find out some stuff.
When he writes that book, we'll find out he has 5 more to write.
And I will still love him for what he has accomplished.
I do.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about some bits and pieces before we get to the final scene. Sam and Gilly, kind of check in with them.
Going to Horn Hill.
On the Horn Hill, going to see Randall, man. Watch out.
Father. Woo.
So that scene to me, like, it conveyed important information. Like, oh, Sam's still a thing, and he's still going somewhere. And we actually have an idea where that is. But as far as the rest of the scene, like, it was one of the least interesting to me. It's just him kind of being, oh, I'm super nervous about having a girlfriend for the first time in my life. Like,
It's transitional, man. This whole episode.
His puking is like pretty much how I felt about that scene, other than seeing that Sam was alive.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, sweet, you're cool.
I'm sorry that I wish this upon you, gentlemen. Last week I said I wanted to see more Sam. I take it back. I take it back. I rescind that. I know, and I apologize. Really,
they should have just like same thing with Tyrion. They literally just should have showed him sitting in a room and they just cut to something else. Like he is alive. He's there.
It wasn't that bad.
Should have been as simple as like, hey, Gilly, we're going to Horn Hill. Yeah, all right.
It's like, cool. Yeah. See, that would have been better to me than, hey, Gilly, we're going to Horn Hill. I'm puking my guts up. Please don't fuck anybody else. I'm insecure about my weight. And that's kind of what that scene was. Like, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of it. It didn't convey like anything hugely important in terms of the show itself, just that they're both.
Well, we hadn't checked in with Sam yet, and it was pretty much there as a reminder to where they're going and what their purpose was. But yeah, it was a little long, and definitely, again, another scene kind of throughout this episode that just kind of felt slow, holding pattern, moving things around the board. Lots of stuff happened last episode, so I kind of figured that this would be one of those early setup episodes, but yeah, I agree that was kind of boring. And then Arya, which we finally get some stuff going on with her that I found interesting. I actually liked the montage, but it was too little too late.
Man, all we needed was the Eye of the Tiger playing in the background.
Yeah,
it would have been complete.
Blind Girl Rocky montage. Let's do this. Let's go fight Apollo Creed.
Yeah, she's ready to fight Apollo Creed now.
But is it the first Apollo Creed fight or the second?
Is it really Apollo Creed?
Yeah. Oh no, he's definitely there. Salvador San is Apollo Creed. They murder him.
It's Dario.
Yeah, I digress.
Yeah.
I think the important thing about that scene, other than finally Arya getting her sight back, which is great, which that means that she can progress to the next step of her training.
Which we knew was coming.
Well, sure. But here's what I found was the most important. When the waif is like thwopping her on the side when she's interrogating her about her list, she mentions the Hound and she says that the Hound's dead, and she goes, "What, is he?" And he's like, "Well, no, not really. I left him for dead.
I left him to die." Which brings us to our tinfoil segment.
Oh yeah!
Put on your tinfoil hats. Let's do this. What was that?
Because when you mention Sir Gregor, Undead Mountain, and Single Combat, the same episode that you bring the Hound back up, I mean, to me, guys, that's 100% confirmed.
100%
For a game bowl. We're going to get it.
Season of hope. Get hype.
So, okay, this theory is called the Clegane Bowl, and which is confirmed on the show, but in the book,
It's confirmed. 100%.
This is confirmed that in the book Zombie Mountain, they call him Sir Robert Strong. So we all know that it's the Mountain because he's freaking huge, but we just not 100% sure, but it's pretty much him. All right. So that's Sandor Clegane, and the other theory is that that's Gregor Clegane. Sorry.
Clegane.
The other theory is that Sandor Clegane, which when Arya left him to die, was found by a passing priest of the faith who pretty much loaded him up in his wagon, cleaned his wounds, sewed him back up, and nursed him to health. And he is living in this monastery doing random chores, or actually he's a grave digger at this monastery. And we get some information from a Brienne chapter in A Feast for Crows. That's where we get this. She describes how this man looks, and he's, you got to remember Brienne is a giant, and this man is taller than her. He's very broad of chest, very muscular, and he wears a scarf wrapped all the way around his head to where only his eyes are showing. And he's limping real bad. And if you remember in the book, the Hound was cut in the leg at the Battle of the Inn, and that's what got infected. So he's limping from his injury in his leg. And who else would wrap up their entire head because half their burn face is very memorable? The Hound. So what do you guys think?
Well, yeah, but the important thing is that the Hound will be the champion of the faith against Cersei's champion, the Mountain, hence Clegane Bowl.
Yeah, and it's important to keep in mind this until a year ago, or really 4 or 5 weeks ago, was regarded as a tinfoil. Now it's 100% confirmed all the way, every day.
It's happening. It's going to happen. I mean, the fact that we get both of them in the same episode is just, it's a little too much.
Well, but the important thing, though, is it wasn't confirmed, and it also wasn't always a setup of the faith versus Cersei. For the longest, there's been Clegane Bowl around since he was gone, and Cersei was certainly involved, but we didn't know exactly where it was going to come from. We didn't have a definite on the faith having a champion, and now they're going to do it.
Going to do it.
And it's going to give. I mean, we all know Sandor just wants to kill his brother.
The
Hound.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's got motivation.
Yeah.
Sandor doesn't really care anything about the faith so much, I think, as much as he wants revenge on his brother.
I don't think we can say that. I don't think you can say that at all now. Because, I mean, we don't know what the Hound's gone through since we last left him,
That's true. That's true. The only missing puzzle piece is getting the Hound from where he was to King's Landing.
Well, and that missing puzzle piece is Al Swearingen himself. What's the actor's name? I can't remember. He played Al Swearingen in Deadwood.
Yeah.
He's going to nurse the Hound back to health. And one thing that kind of I have a scruple with, or just I'm curious about, is that in his character description, he's described as a leader of a peace cult. So he's nursed the Hound back to health, and
you're talking total speculation here, bro.
Yeah. So what?
Well,
I'm allowed to speculate.
100% confirmed.
But it just says it's a peace cult. So I was just wondering, how's he going to get around? Our sect is based in peace, so I'm going to be the champion for the faith.
I don't think you can do it like that in the show.
I mean, I'm saying in the show, the description.
Yeah, that was the casting call for Al Swearingen's character.
Do we really not know this actor's name? Someone Google this actor, please.
Well, it doesn't matter because that's a whole nother episode.
Ian McShane is his name. Yes.
Got it.
All right. So, yes, that's our tinfoil of the week. Clegane Bowl. It's not tinfoil anymore. We're calling it confirmed.
100%.
100%.
Go watch the Clegane Bowl and other hype videos. Just do yourself a favor. They're great.
Yeah, if you haven't, YouTube Clegane Bowl.
We will link them in our comments.
Yeah, link them in the comments. Let's do that.
It's gold.
We can go ahead and link Snowball as well because
We'll put them all up there. All right, so let's talk about Winterfell since you brought up Snowball.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, yes.
We got Ramsay in charge at Winterfell here. and kind of a sad turn of events when it comes to the former bannermen of the Starks, the Umbers.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I thought the Small John was excellent.
Yes.
I rather enjoyed his character.
Is that the Small John?
It is the Small John.
I only had
yes.
time to do one watch this week.
It is the Small
Sorry,
John.
guys.
He just refers to Grey John as his father, so we assume.
Oh, okay.
We're just gonna go ahead and
Who else would he be?
I glossed over it because I only had one watch.
He's the medium John.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd hate to see the XXL John.
Which, it kind of sucks to me because the Umbers were Rob's biggest supporters. They were the first one to name him King of the North. And then you got this guy betraying the Stark name. What's up? What's going on?
I disagree.
I don't believe it.
I sure hope not.
I think that the Johns, great and small, the Umbers, excuse me. I think that the Umbers are playing Ramsay because the North remembers, man.
Oh, I sure hope so, dude. I want the North to remember so bad.
Season O.
It is
We're crushing the season O.
I really think, when you have Umber refusing to kneel, refusing to kiss his hand, he is doing some gymnastics to get around having to do that
To
kind
swear
of stuff.
any oaths.
Yeah, he's not swearing any oaths to him.
So are y'all saying that the Umbers are taking place of the Manderleys? In the the books
That's
we have the
book stuff.
Manderleys. That's what I'm saying. Are they going to be playing more of that role?
Maybe.
I think the Manderleys are still going to show up, personally.
Really?
Yeah. I think this is the start of a Northern conspiracy with a family name that we know.
We did get a
we need to do
Manderley
that.
name drop.
We need to do that tinfoil next week then.
Okay.
Because we've already done our tinfoil
That would take an
segment.
entire hour-long segment if we did the whole Grand North conspiracy. Too much.
You could do a simple summary.
All right, but the only thing that I'm concerned about or worried about or unsure about is Shaggy Dog. That's a pretty big fucking wolf's head that he laid on the table there. If it's not Shaggy Dog, where did they find a wolf that big?
I think it is Shaggy
Dog. What happened to him?
I think it is Shaggy Dog, but I think that they found Shaggy Dog killed by either Ramsay's men or some other, wildlings or something, and they decided to use it as an opportunity to get it in with Ramsay.
If I'm just gonna believe that it's all a mummer's farce, if you will, then it's not Shaggy Dog. Why would they do that? Why would this happen? No.
It definitely is Shaggy Dog, 100% confirmed.
Oh.
Bro. Because Ramsay walked up to the head and without question just looked at it for 2 seconds and said, "Yep, that's a direwolf."
Yeah.
Like his logic was so instant, like, "Yep, direwolf," and then smiled at Rickon and said menacing shit like he does.
And honestly, Rickon looked kind of, crestfallen when he actually looked at the severed head of the dog as well.
I told y'all this shit was gonna happen.
But there's some pointed glances between him and Osha too. Like, okay, we talked about this. You're gonna have to look at your dog's head. It's part of the ruse, I got that vibe from it,
Yeah. Again, I think it's all they're just trying to get in order to betray Ramsay in some way. I really do not think that the Umbers, who were the Stark's most loyal bannermen, have really turned coat. The North fucking remembers, bro.
Well, especially considering the kind of dismissive way that Umber explained the issue of loyalty in the show. Like, well, your dad kind of fucked some people over, just saying. Talk, but it wasn't like a defense of anything. It's just like, hey, fuck you.
I love the Lord Bolden died of poisoning for our enemies. Just,
Yeah, that was great. Again, I thought the Small John was excellent. I'm really excited to see more of him as we go forward.
I agree. Well, y'all, that brings us.
We got a lightning round? I was wondering.
Yeah, we got the lightning round.
All right.
Going raw on this one.
So first question, and who is in the worst predicament, Cersei, Daenerys, or Jon?
oh, Daenerys.
Daenerys. I'm going to say Daenerys.
Tyrion.
That's
Cersei.
I say Cersei too.
Yeah, Cersei.
I think Dany's riding this out to just see where it goes, but she's also got plot armor on her, so it's hard for me to really think that she's in any kind of dire straits right now.
Well, and so does John. I mean, he just got brought back to life, literally.
Yeah, I think he's pretty safe for a few episodes.
Definitely plot armor. Right?
So, my reasoning is the one person who doesn't have plot armor is probably the most in peril right now.
Yeah. All right. Just a simple yes or no. Are the Umbers loyal?
Two.
To start.
To Starks. Okay.
Yes.
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 Is Arya actually no one?
No.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Nice, a tie. I love a tie.
All right. Kill of the week.
Shoot, dude. Ollie.
It was the 2 blades to the neck, cross-cut during the Tower of Joy fight.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to say Ollie swinging from the rope. That was pretty satisfying. Good fan service there.
I am going to say Howland Reed stabbing Sir Arthur Dane in the neck. Tag team with Ned slash to the throat.
You son of a...
Yeah, you can't take the only kill left, bro. I'm going to say the only 2 left is my... No, I'm with it, though. I think that was important, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm just left with the other generic kills in the Tower of Joy scene, pretty much.
Now the one, what about Ned getting the one Kingsguard?
Oh, right in the throat.
Yep,
that's
dude.
the one. Thank you, Apple Monster. I will take that kill of the week.
You're welcome, buddy.
All right, good job. Oh, wait, you know what? I forgot. We'll do one.
Yeah.
Fatality.
There it is.
I got the fatality.
So let's rate it, guys. I'm going to start with you, Higgins.
I am going to say a nice, big, solid 6.5 out of 10.
Okay. Apple Monster?
I'm going to say 7 out of 10.
Higgins?
You already said me.
I'm sorry. Remus?
I'm going to go 7.286.
That's good.
I'm in the 7.105 range. Give or take a couple hundredths of a point,
I would have given it a 7 had we gotten a little more Tower of Joy, a little less awkward Tyrion, and
it was actually a very good transition episode. We just had a couple of scenes that were drawn out. They weren't even terrible. At least they were a little funny.
Yeah.
But it really didn't serve much of a purpose.
Right.
There was definitely some fat that could have been trimmed to make up for some lean muscle, but it's still pretty good overall. Still Game of Thrones. You're doing good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And considering last week's 15 out of 10
from you,
I mean, they can't all be John returning from the dead.
Yeah, they can't all be singers.
So you got to cut them a little slack, but I don't want to.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps up this episode. I want to speak to all of our new listeners, man. We're glad to have you guys on board. It's nice to have our audience grow a little bit and seeing y'all in the comments. Feel free to comment on the things we discussed today and any feedback too. We're always up for growing. I just wanted to thank y'all for listening.
Yeah, really, we appreciate it. We appreciate your comments. Please continue to discuss in the comment section. We will try to answer everything that we can get to. We really enjoy having your input as well as our own.
Mm-hmm. You the real MVPs.
You are, folks.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all next week.
Thanks, guys.
Later.